Hello ladies and gentlemen, MarauderEX here, back with more Let's Play Castlevania Lament of Innocence, and even though we're done with the story, I've got a bunch of extras, so this is going to be the extra video where I show off all the stuff that you unlock. We saw at the end of the game, you unlock two things. You unlock Yohai mode and you unlock Crazy mode. Crazy mode is you just play through the game in exceptionally hard difficulty. This is actually my save file that I just beat. We just finished. If you go back to the World Hub near the House of Sacred Remains entrance and all that stuff, the World Hub here, you have Boss Rush mode. So I'm gonna stand on this. This is typical for most Castlevania games. You have Boss Rush, where you just fight all of the bosses in rapid succession with a time limit, and that includes the optional bosses. I was not expecting that. So, yeah, I'm not going to be fighting all of the bosses in this. That's just not going to happen. I just wanted to show off that that's there. That's a thing. Oh, yeah. Ice Whip. I don't understand why the Ice Whip does damage to him. It shouldn't. I mean, he's on fire. And it chronicles your clear time, so you want to do it as fast as possible. So I'm not going to be going through all of them, and then it gives you, you know, potions and hearts for whatever you may have used. And since I have used potions, because I used them in my last fight, I only have those two. So yeah, those are things. So I'll be back in just a second with the next piece of the secret stuff that you unlock when you beat Castlevania Lament of Innocence. Alright, so what happens when you beat the game? You get new codes. If you do at Yoheim or at Crazy, it starts a new game, and you can see games with a completed save file that we've beaten the game have a little star next to them. So those are games that we have actually beaten, which allows us to start the next mode. So this one, I'm going to show off Yoheim. Yochim, I can't pronounce his name. I kind of wanted to do a complete playthrough with him, but he does not actually add anything new to the story, so I'm just going to do the final boss fight for him so you can see his ending, because there's really nothing that he adds to the story. This is kind of an interesting hard mode. For those of you who've played Castlevania games before, you know if you beat the game, you might be able to play it, at least with more modern Castlevanias, you can play as a secondary character. Usually, if it's a non-Belmont game like Soma Cruz, you play as a Belmont. This one you play as Yoheim, and he has two distinct patterns. He has telekinetically controls swords. They will slash, doing medium damage, and this form they will pierce, doing higher damage. And you can also press and hold the square button to charge them up, and notice how it's a giant sword now. You can't really charge them up to get multiple hits. By the time one fully charges up, your hit counter restores, but you can change on the fly by pressing the triangle button. We have a double jump, and we can dodge. We have quick step 2, but we do not have guard. We cannot guard. If you press R1, it does targeting for the swords. So that makes it exceptionally more difficult. Also, we don't use items. We have no item menus, we have no armor, we have no accessories. So we just have our straight HP, and we have MP, which we'll show here in a second when we get into the fight. Every successful hit you do will generate MP, so that does help out a lot. And there are two magic attacks. One where he will have the sword spin and slice and dice. The other one where he forms a giant beam. The beam being the most useful. It makes boss rush mode for him rather difficult. Or rather, easy. And that's the beam. And I'll need to save up some MP because I took a hit that I should not have taken. I really should not have taken that hit at all. And boss fights with Joachim, some are easier, some are harder, depending on... Alright, that's not anywhere I want to be right now. I may speed this up as well, depending on how long it takes. I beat it rather quickly last night to unlock the secondary game mode, or I guess tertiary game mode. Yeah, Walter is a joke with Joachim, really. The only thing is you got to be careful to not jump into attacks, because his dodge is a little weirder. But again, we don't really get any story with Joachim, so that's why I didn't want to do a complete playthrough. And I can basically just stand out of range for most of your attacks. Death is kind of a pain, but he's also kind of easy at the same time. One of his attacks becomes considerably harder, the rest of them become considerably easier. Oh, that's... And the double jump does kind of help considerably. And I've got full MP and I've missed. However, you are invincible when you use that. So, I mean, he can keep shooting his beam at me all he wants. Not gonna do anything. But I need to kill him quickly, because before I take any more damage. And minions, I typically switch to the slashy sword, because they have a better area of effect as to not get hit by. Or I'm just going to sit here and beat him to death with my laser of death.
Deadly Tempest.
Alright, Deadly Tempest is kind of hard. You have to time double jumps very well.
Deadly Tempest.
And I'm kind of surprised I did not take a hit on that one. Deadly Tempest really is the hardest attack you have to dodge. If you can dodge that, you're good.
Deadly Tempest.
And yeah. So yeah, that's Joachim's ending. That's the only difference, and we get a special background for the credits. So, but once you beat Joachim's mode, you also unlock another mode. I'll be back in just a second to show that one off as well. So, just 1 second. Alright, so once you beat Joachim, and you have a save file for that with a little star, if you do @pumpkin, you get a very, very interesting gameplay experience. I'm going to show this one off. This is the pumpkin. If I could get a little bit closer up on him, he has some sort of weird frog thing hand. I don't know. It's a little face with an eye for one arm and what looks like a piece of candy for another. That's like a weird cannon thing. He has a whip. He has all of Leon's movesets, but as you see, Leon Belmont is crossed out. He does not have armor, relics, or you can equip them because he plays just like Leon, so we can get them. We don't have any of them because I just started this this playthrough, but we start off with all of the skill list unlocked already. So we have the double jump, we have the quick step, and quick step 2. We have draw up and falcon kick and all of that stuff. And we can get all of the different whips. We start off with the vampire killer. I gotta go into equip. We start off with the vampire killer, but we can get the other elemental whips because we have to, because they're needed to get through certain sections of the castle. We can also get relics. I didn't go through the tutorial to get the Savarg statue here, so because I'm just showing this off. But the biggest change is his stats. Attack of 40. His attack is almost double what Leon's was at the end of the game with the accessory that increased damage. His defense, however, is 10, which is considerably lower than Leon's. So, and then the biggest change is the only sub-weapon we have access to is the pumpkin, which I will show that off. If it hits something, it explodes. If it doesn't, it bounces a couple of times until it does explode. One thing I don't have are any of the orbs. The orbs do change the pumpkin sub-weapon, but they are just basically reskins of other sub-weapons. One of them is the magic missile, where it'll shoot out 6 pumpkins in front of you, and then they turn into pink energy beams that home in, much like one of the dagger sub-weapons. Another one is one of the crystal sub-weapons. It'll drop a giant pumpkin down on the ground like a meteor, and then that will explode a minute later, like one of the crystal sub-weapons. They're all just reskins, just with the pumpkin theme. But this is an interesting mode because we do so much damage, and as you see, we have very little HP and very little MP. So we can take a lot of damage as well. But a triangle attack, one of the strong attacks, kills everything in 1 to 2 hits in the House of Sacred Remains. So, and he is basically Leon. He just has a smaller character model, but he's still, all of his hitboxes are pretty much the same. But he gets weird poses when he goes through doors. So, yeah, that is the pumpkin. I've never done a complete playthrough of the pumpkin because I've never really seen any reason to, because there's not too much difference between the pumpkin and Leon. At least with playing Joheim, it's the gameplay style is different enough to warrant a different playthrough. Also, my luck seems to be really high, because I keep getting potion drops with this guy. I don't know if it's just luck of the draw or what. There's been a lot of talk about why there's a pumpkin. Supposedly in one of the game notes, seen on message boards, found one of the Japanese versions of the game, the pumpkin was Leon's favorite stuffed animal as a kid. It was his favorite toy. The pumpkin does make a second appearance in Curse of Darkness as well, as an Innocent Devil class, so he is there. I don't think I unlocked him in my original playthrough. I'm going to try to unlock him in my next playthrough. So, yeah, that's the pumpkin. The whip is not... There's also talk that it's a frog's hand, or a frog's face on the pumpkin's hand, and that's the frog's tongue, because it's a red whip, kind of like the doppelganger. there's really not a lot of information about why this is a thing. Like, no one knows. We don't know. I don't know why this is a thing. But yeah, this is the pumpkin. So the last thing I'm going to show off is something that you can get from the very beginning, and I've had the very beginning of this playthrough, I've just never shown off, is the music box. If you go to Ronaldo's house after beating the game, you can purchase the music box, which will add another mode. And we will see that in just a second. Alright, so once you purchase the music box, as long as you have a save file that's purchased on, when you come to the main menu here, you have Sound Select. And we saw this at the very beginning of the game. It is the soundtrack of the game. We can play any of the songs, pretty much, that you hear, and then there's also comments from the composer. Stone King Golem is solid and all, but the actual movements are kind of cute, which is what I find charming about it. Walter's theme. As a vampire, beloved by the night, granted his power, Walter is very striking. So that's an interesting little thing, especially if you were a fan of the music. You could come and listen to it. If you happen to have pre-ordered this game way back in the day, you got a music sampler CD, depending on where you ordered it from, that has several of the songs from this, in addition to a couple of Symphony of the Night songs. So I actually have that CD. It was well worth the pre-order bonus, because I knew I was buying this game anyway. And that's one of the few times I've ever really given into the pre-order bonus. Like, if it's a game I want, I'm going to pre-order it anyway, but, you know, bonus is a bonus. It's worth having. So, yeah. Anti-Soul Mysteries Lab, Aria of Nightmare, Ghostly Theater. So, like, I love these songs. They're just so much fun to sit and listen to. Dark Palace of Waterfalls. Like, you can sit there and just listen to The Garden Forgotten by Time. And it's all of the different subsets as well, so. Because Garden Forgotten by Time has 2 or 3 themes. The Ghostly Theater has 2 or 3 themes. Like Misty Moon Pagoda, the Moon Pagoda. I now can't remember its actual name because of the track name. That's what it starts off as, and then when you get to the upper level, it becomes Leon's theme. So it's the soundtrack to the game, all here. So yeah, that has been Castlevania Lament of Innocence, and all of the extras that you can get. I'm not going to show off Crazy Mode because it's Leon again, just with a harder difficulty. That's, I don't think, quite as hard as the Pumpkin Mode. So yeah, that's it. But those are all the things that you can unlock with Lament of Innocence. I will see you guys in the next project. Till then, later everyone.